Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about some of the difficulties that you might encounter as a business analyst working with different types of stakeholders and different types of customers. So it was actually partially inspired by Hari's comment in 5 mistakes that I made as a business analyst, which is one of my popular videos. This subscriber was asking me to talk about some of the experiences or negative experiences I've had in the past working with different stakeholders and how to handle them. So I thought it was actually a very good point to discuss, because as future aspiring business analysts or working professionals, you are inevitably going to encounter some of the difficulties that come with your job. And I have to be honest, as a business analyst, one of the most challenging things about being BA is being able to get buy-in from your stakeholders, is being able to deliver and make sure your customers are happy, right? Because at the end of the day, if you cannot work or get along with your customers and you have to spend so much time working with them, you're gonna be miserable, right? So I think that was a very good topic. So that's why I came back today to discuss 3 different types of difficult customers that you might encounter. So the first difficult type of customers that you might encounter are the ones that show lack of enthusiasm or support when you're working with them. So these are oftentimes business stakeholders who have subject matter expertise in some of the business processes. So they're sort of brought into project teams, so then they can be part of this process to elicit requirements and for them to provide valuable feedback. So subject matter experts oftentimes have their day-to-day jobs. So this project, unless they are dedicated project resources, they are really busy, and that could be the reason why that when they're brought into certain workshops or when they need to participate in some of the sessions, that they might seem a little bit distant or they don't want to participate in as much. So this is one of the things that you need to work with your project manager and change management lead. This is not something that you can change or do, and don't take this personal. Don't take their lack of enthusiasm or participation as a sign that they don't like you or they don't want to work with you, right? Just everybody has a lot going on, and oftentimes it's more to do with circumstances than their actual interests or their overall contribution to the type of work that you need to do with them. So as a young implementation consultant, I used to worry about, whether or not people are going to like me, whether or not, my customers were going to like me. So when they showed lack of support or enthusiasm during workshops that I was leading, I just felt like it was a personal attack, or, maybe they weren't participating because I'm not engaging enough. Maybe it's because of the way that I present things. So I used to think that a lot of things had to do with me, but in fact, it wasn't, right? A lot of the things you don't have control. You don't have control over somebody else's motivation to help out with a project. It's oftentimes because of their day-to-day tasks and the amount of work that they have to do that they don't have time for this project. And now they're being told by their superiors to come in and help out in any way, shape, or form. If that's the case, what I would try to do is to try to make that personal or build that personal connection first. So during the lunchtime or even before, in between breaks, I would try to make conversation and try to get to know that person individually, and then, ask them casual conversations about their lives. So then you can actually get to know them at a personal level, and then you can build that trust and confidence. And so, maybe that stakeholder is very shy at first, or, maybe that stakeholder, has similar hobby as you. You never know, right? So what I would try to do is try to make sure to have some one-on-one time with the stakeholders and see, if I can build personal connection to see if that's going to help with their participation in workshops and, to monitor how things go. But, if you're not able to make any personal kind of, connection with the difficult customer and they're not going to give you any time, then you obviously have to work with a project manager or a change management lead if you have one. and kind of let them know very discreetly, confidential information, of course, but just kind of let them know that you're having difficulty engaging some of the stakeholders, and kind of ask them, in this particular situation, I was asking for feedback and, I couldn't get any answers. Are there any other questions or, different approach that I should try to get them more engaged, right? So, and then ask for feedback, right? Ask for feedback and see what others say. Because oftentimes if a project manager or change management lead is in the same workshop with you, then they could definitely provide you some valuable feedback, right? Maybe it's your presentation method. Maybe, you need to engage them in a different way, and then the project manager can also solicit feedback from participants as well. So that's what I would do. The first step is to try to make personal connection with some of the difficult customers, and then if that doesn't work, then sort of raise it with a project manager and change management lead to try and see if there are any other ways that you can get them engaged a little bit more. And basically, I think, it's important to not take things personally, because I used to take things very personally. And, when there was no participation, I just felt like it was my fault. And basically, with this particular situation, you just don't know where somebody is at, right? Just because somebody's there doesn't mean that they're fully present. The rule of thumb is not to take things personally, and actively look for ways to better engage them. And if that doesn't work, then you just have to let others know and move on, right? You just can't force somebody to participate if they have no desire to do so, right? So the second set of challenge that you might face with some of the customers are, customers who are very demanding and they want things delivered now, and they want more than what you can deliver oftentimes. So what I mean by this is, let's say this project is intended to really focus on specific modules of a system that you're trying to implement, right? Or you only know that, talking with a project manager, that the scope of the project is ABC, but your customer is demanding A, B, C, D, E, F, right? They want all the bells and whistles. They want the full upgrade, even though your budget and your timeline really allows you to do, a small portion of what they really envision and what they're really hoping to achieve, right? So it's very, very important as a business analyst to manage their expectations and being able to communicate that effectively. So as an example, oftentimes when you go into workshops and discuss some of the business challenges or some of the pain points that business has, people will start saying, oh, this is not working, our onboarding process is broken. It's really difficult for us to transfer somebody internationally from Canada to US because of all the different legal documentation that needs to happen. And sometimes we don't keep track of all the right information for us to process their payroll, right? There's different issues that are involved. And so once the business starts talking about all the different problems and pain points that they have, they could talk about problems that are not included in the scope of the specific project, right? So if you're only there to fix one specific onboarding task, but they end up talking about onboarding and then talent management and then, the application tracking system and how it fails to bring in the certain information and fields because it breaks every time. Like, that's way out of scope of this project and what we're trying to discuss. And if you just let customers talk for a full hour, like, I guarantee you, you're going to face this problem. So oftentimes what I do is, before each meeting, I make sure to read the SOW, or the contract, or a statement of work that specifies what's actually in scope for this particular project. So then it's fresh in my mind what exactly it is that, what exactly are we trying to solve today, right? In this specific project. I mean, we understand that there are millions of other problems, but we need to prioritize them, right? We need to basically focus on the ones that have enough funds and timeline and resources lined up, we can't fix everything, right? That's facing our department or our region, for example. So what I would normally do is, review the SOW quickly before the meeting, and then make sure that you understand what the scope of the project is. And when they start to bring up different points and when the conversation starts to move away from the specific topics that you had in mind, then you have to kind of make sure to bring them back. So this is why having an agenda and goals set for each meeting is very important, because if you don't have specific agenda, it's really easy for customers to start skewing away from the main goals and objectives. So this is what I would do, is to make sure you have an agenda and being able to facilitate. And if I notice that customers are starting to talk about things that are out of scope, then I would say, for example, Helen, thank you so much for bringing that up. I can totally understand that is a big pain point for you, and that must create a lot of work and additional workarounds for your team. But I just want to make sure to check back and see if that is part of our scope, because even though it is a very important issue, I just want to make sure that we're not over-promising something that we cannot deliver within this project timeline, right? And I'll get back to you. So normally this is sort of the approach that I would be taking, is to acknowledge that yes, this is a pain point, and acknowledging yes, this is an issue. However, we need to make sure to stay focused and talk about this specific project and what our deliverables are, right? And there's actually a term for it. It's called scope creep. So you can see it happens very common. There's a term for it, right? So if this were to happen, then that this is a scope creep, and you just have to make sure to kind of guide them back and let them know that we need to make sure to stay on track and talk about specific objectives for this specific problem that we're solving today. And lastly, the third difficult type of customers are the ones who are the nicest people in the world, but who just can't seem to make decisions in time. And this happens quite a bit, in most of the projects that I've worked with in the past. It's, I've actually dealt with the situation very, very, very frequently. So what this means is that basically business is afraid of making decisions because they need to make decisions in order to make certain changes to their business processes or how they do business today, but they don't fully understand what that future state is going to look like. So they're kind of like retreating a little bit and holding back, and they're afraid of owning and making a decision that can really help us move forward, right? Without making any concrete decisions, designs cannot be finalized, which means we cannot make any changes that we need to. So the business really has to own their decisions and sort of help us move forward by providing business rationale, but oftentimes business can feel intimidated, or they sometimes refer to their superiors. So what happens is that business refuses to make decisions, and then it goes back to their supervisor or their managers or their superiors, and they keep on deferring decisions because they're afraid of making the wrong decisions. But that's not helpful, because at the end of the day, somebody who's at a higher up, who's at a managerial or director level, like they're not in their system. They're not the ones who are doing day-to-day business. It's really the end users. It's really the subject matter experts who understand the ins and outs of any business processes, right? So the problem with senior managers or senior managers making decisions is sometimes they don't understand the implications of downstream impact or how it's going to affect end users. And this has been a constant struggle. So I think one way to remediate this type of risk is for you to work really closely with a project manager. And so normally as a business analyst, you don't have to create stakeholder register because that's something that a project manager would provide. But then you also have to work with the project manager, or maybe it's the project manager who's going to say, oh, these are some of the decision points and we need to make sure who's responsible for what. And this is why I think having a RACI chart would be really perfect. So a RACI chart is a project management tool that is being used in order to make roles and responsibilities very clear. So when it comes time to engaging different stakeholders or making decisions, that it can be done in a more timely manner. So here is an example of what RACI chart looks like. So you can take a look. But basically, this is something that normally as a project team or a project manager will bring it up. So you can definitely take a look, and every requirement that you have some questions on or follow-up questions, you can definitely refer back to RACI chart and then follow up with that specific person who is accountable for that specific decision. So that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed talking about top 3 challenges that you could encounter with some of the difficult customers as a business analyst. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below and let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!